Hello, everybody. This is Marty Marion from Master Positioning. Welcome to the Master Course. In today's session, we're going to be talking about one of the most important, foundational, fundamental aspects of the entire science of positioning and depositioning for competitive advantage. And it's called the positioning platform. Now, the positioning platform is actually a result. It is the objective we are trying to get to in our path to creating messages that will compel our targets, which could be customers, clients, consumers, B2B, B2C, in favor of our brand and away from our competitors. What we like to do is to work backwards. And you've heard me say this before. You'll hear me say this a lot. Positioning works best when you look at it from the outside in, backwards. Marketing is very linear, traditionally. So first we do this, and then we do the next step, and then we take the third step. But in positioning, we work from the outside in. So today, I'm going to teach you about the positioning platform, what it is, what it's intended to do, what it's not intended to do, how it's structured. I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to show you the power of what a positioning platform can really do. But creating a positioning platform is not as easy as it might look. And there's some work that we need to do to be able to craft our own positioning platforms. That work has a lot of moving parts to it. And I'm going to take each part, I'm going to break it down into bite-sized pieces so that it's easy to understand, easy to digest, and easy to do. But we won't really be able to understand each of the pieces without understanding what we're hoping to achieve as the end result. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle. And I just take these 1,000 cut up pieces and I dump them all out on your table or your floor. And I say, go, make that puzzle. Well, if you don't know what the end result, the picture, is supposed to look like, you're going to hold up a piece and you're going to say, well, I don't know, this is kind of green. Could it be grass or a tree or, I don't know. It's the same thing with the positioning platform. The positioning platform that I'm going to show you today is what the puzzle looks like when it's finished. Next session, I'm going to show you how we build the puzzle, how we grasp each of the pieces that go into our positioning platforms to be able to pick the right words, pick the right emphasis, pick the right cadence. And so, with that said, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through the positioning platform. Welcome to session 2 of the Master Course, the positioning platform. The first thing that I always like to do is a very, very quick recap of what we did in the last session. So we're going to take a minute or two and do a very fast recap. And then we're going to dissect the positioning platform. What is it? What does it do? What is the structure of the positioning platform? What does it look like? And we're going to talk about something that's really important. And when we get to this part, pay a little extra attention. There's something called the stated positioning, and there's also the implied positioning. And here's where we get into one of the first pieces of the psychology part of positioning and depositioning, which relates to how your targets, consumers or clients, actually hear the words you are saying, whether it's verbal or digital. It's like playing a game of telephone. And as you go down the line to the next person and the next person, and think of each person in that game of telephone as a step in your marketing funnel, from first touch to second touch to thinking about it, evaluating options, making a decision, the way words that were heard get interpreted, or messages that you put on your website or in your ads or in your emails, the way they are received may or may not be exactly what you wanted to say. So when we get to the point of stated versus implied positioning, I'm going to show you some examples of what that means. And then a little teaser about what comes next week. So quick recap. In session 1 of the master course, we talked about the importance for all of us of acquiring a constant stream of new customers, new consumers, new clients, because after all, that's the lifeblood of almost any business. You're never going to keep a client or a customer forever and ever and ever, happily ever after. You're going to lose some, or some are going to finish their projects and move on. So you need to keep bringing more in. But we want to try to do this as inexpensively as possible and at the highest profitable margin, right? We want to spend less and make more. Each customer we bring in, we want to keep them longer. We want to maximize their value. And positioning enables you to understand how to do that. So we also talked a little bit last time about increasing both profitability and longevity of consumers or customers or clients over time. And what I am talking about directly is increasing AOV, average order value, increasing frequency, increasing lifetime value. And all of these have a huge benefit when they're implemented with the positioning and depositioning mindset. We talked about the fact that the real challenge in most businesses is that you have competitors, right? You're not the only one who does what it is that you do. And maybe you do it best, or maybe your products are the best. But there are others out there who have something similar, or who say the same things you may be saying to the same targets you want. And that's the problem. Because consumers or client targets, they have a choice. Who am I going to choose? Which agency am I going to select? Which brand of jeans or watch or shirt or earrings am I going to buy? Consumers and clients have choices. Well, that's great, but it really isn't, because we don't want them to feel, to believe that their other options are as viable as our option is. So our objective here is to outsmart our competitors, not outspend them. And this is a very, very core component of why positioning works, because it not only allows us to outsmart our competitors, it actually allows us to annihilate them. Poof, they're gone, like Kaiser Soze. Positioning underlies every aspect, every tactic of every marketing message across every touch point and every channel of your marketing. Think about positioning as the oxygen that flows through your body. You have many organs, many functions, many systems. They're all dependent on oxygen. In your marketing, you have multiple channels, you have multiple tactics, but they are all dependent ultimately on one underlying common denominator. Can clients and customers and prospects and targets out there truly believe that your brand, your product, your service, your agency, your course is actually going to solve a problem that they have? And simultaneously, that your competitors can't. That's the win. So let's jump in a little bit to the positioning platform itself. And I want to start out by saying that the positioning platform is a framework. What it does is it states your brand or your agency or your clients or your products or your services. I just use the word brand a lot. So when I do, assume that it also refers to whatever it is that you're doing. The positioning platform is a very specific framework that states, it puts out there in the marketplace your specific positioning message and your specific depositioning message. And when I say puts out there or states, what it does is it inserts these messages into the minds of your target, because that's where the action happens. Creating a positioning platform is the ultimate objective of why we're doing this, why we're trying to understand the strategic underpinnings of what positioning science is really all about. And yes, it encompasses a lot of different things: consumer buying psychology, differentiation points, comparative shopping, a customer's journey to discover information before they make a buying choice. The positioning platform is what we need to get to before we actually create all of our marketing messages and put them out there. So it's important, and in an ideal world, we would all create our perfect positioning platforms before we did any positioning or any marketing. But you're all in business. You're all doing something, and you have been for a while. And because the positioning platform, when you finally craft one properly for your business, it is absolutely going to impact your messages. And you need to be ready to accept that some of your current messaging, which could be in your ads, it could be on your website, it could be in your emails, may have to change. And that's okay. The last thing we want is to get sucked in to that quicksand of cognitive dissonance where we just resist changing something, even though intellectually we know there's probably a better way to do it. So be prepared, because the positioning platform defines your proactive positioning, the part that compels your targets towards your brand, in favor of your brand, and simultaneously compels your targets away from believing in your competitors. That's the depositioning part. They happen at the same time. The positioning platform is also used as the foundation for creating all your marketing messages across all your touch points. It could be SEO, how you write your page titles. It could be how you structure URLs with certain keywords and not with certain other keywords, regardless of what a lot of keyword research tools may tell you. It affects headlines, which could be in ads, websites, emails, subject lines. It affects how you name and describe your products. So product descriptions, service descriptions. Our services include A, B, and C. Well, what you say about A, B, and C conveys a reaction in the mind of your target, a psychological reaction. We need to make sure that it achieves what we're trying to achieve. Certainly ad copy, the images you choose, have an impact. Your website content. What is the very first thing that your target sees when they hit your website? Let's say they hit your homepage. What's the very first thing they see? Does it convey your positioning or does it not? And if it doesn't, we may want to reconsider that. Something very interesting. A positioning platform, and I'm going to show you an example, is a statement, right? It's a paragraph. It could be 3 sentences. It could be 10 sentences. It's a platform. But we almost never use it verbatim. It's meant as a guide. It's a reminder. What I tell my clients, once we've crafted their positioning platform, is to print it out, big, tape it up on your wall. And when you sit down to create new ads, when you sit down to create the content for a new website or new pages on your website, or evaluating your current website content, look at it, read it, and ask yourself, is this headline supporting what my positioning platform is telling me I need to be saying? And if it isn't, you're in the wrong direction. So the positioning platform, not used verbatim, but used as a guide to craft your messages. And it will be modifiable. It will be slightly adapted for different uses, for different channels. So for example, let's suppose that you are about to introduce a new service offering at your company, but you already have a positioning for your agency. What you're going to do is you're going to look at your positioning platform and you're going to ask, how do I craft my introductory messages about this new service that I'm offering so that it still falls in line with my positioning platform? Why? Because your positioning platform is what conveys to your target that you're going to solve their problem or fulfill their need. We adapt our messaging, still using our positioning platform, for different channels. So for example, you have a lot of real estate in a Facebook post. You have a lot less real estate in a tweet on Twitter. You have different amounts of real estate that have different value levels to the headlines and the subject lines and the body content and the images on different channels. So we need to understand the positioning platform is not meant to be used verbatim or to be used as a one solution for all deployments. We're going to vary it a little bit, but the core messaging is always going to stay consistent. And this is really important because I say this to my clients, I've said this publicly in my groups. Your brand is not what you say it is. Your brand is what your customers, your clients, and your consumers believe it is. And if you put out a different message every Tuesday, how are they ever going to feel that you mean or stand for some solution to a specific problem or set of problems or needs or challenges or desires? We don't change who we are fundamentally every 15 minutes. Why would you change how you're messaging what your company is about, what your brand is about, what your service is about? So that stays consistent. The words we use may differ. The number of words we use may differ. The emphasis may differ, but the message remains the same. And this is really important because positioning and depositioning is intended to allow you to achieve competitive advantage. What does that mean? Very simple lay language. It means you have the advantage over your competitors. Ideally, you don't have any competitors. But until we get to that lesson where we talk about absolutely annihilating all of your competitors, as we get there, you still have competitors. And what we want to do is we want to be in charge. We want to control how our targets perceive, believe, and behave towards our brands or our services. I'm going to elaborate on this for a moment. Beliefs are what drive behavior. If you believe something, you're going to behave that way. If your targets believe something, they're going to behave that way. From a business point of view, the behavior that we're looking for is a buying action, right? Click here, sign up, pick up the phone and dial that number, fill out this form, get my newsletter, ask for an RFP. We're looking for our targets to take a commitment move, take a buying action. They're not going to do that if they don't believe. But beliefs, they don't happen overnight. They don't just fall out of the sky. Beliefs form, they gel, they coalesce over a series of perceptions, messages, moments of influence that we go through in our daily lives as people. We learn more each day, hopefully, and it changes how we feel about things. But once we believe, that's how we behave. Positioning really has two targets. One is those targets who may not have formed a belief yet. An example might be, I just decided this morning to buy a new laptop. And maybe the reason is that I broke my old laptop, or it blew up, or I spilled a cup of coffee on it and fried it to pieces. Or maybe it's too slow, or it runs hot. Whatever the reason is, I made a decision this morning to buy a new laptop. Well, in the 2 years since I bought my laptop, a lot of new technology out there. New chipsets, new graphics cards. So I'm going to go into a process of discovery. I'm going to read, I'm going to Google, I'm going to compare, right? And every one of these laptop brands wants my business. Their job is to convince me that only that brand of laptop is going to solve the problem I have, and that the other competitive laptops out there aren't, right? That's what they're trying to do. So positioning has one set of targets for those who have not yet made the belief moment. I typically am a PC person, confession. I know a lot of people are Apple fanatics. I get it, it's fine. For me to change to an Apple platform, be a pretty hard thing to do. And there are reasons for that. I have all my desktops are PC-based, my other laptops are PC-based, all my software is PC. Changing over to a completely different OS probably, in my mind, seems like it would be an onerous task. I don't have time for that. So as I go looking for a new laptop, I'm probably right away eliminating Apple as a choice. But maybe there's a really compelling reason why I should go with an iOS platform and go through the pain, rip the Band-Aid off of changing over from a PC-based platform to an Apple-based platform. If someone could position that properly, in my mind, it might disrupt my way of thinking. So one target of positioning science and depositioning science is to get the target while they're in that process of thinking things through. But the other target is to be able to message in such a way that you can actually shake someone's core beliefs. Some beliefs are easier to shake than others. If I found out, and I use this example a lot, that my favorite shampoo contained a chemical that was just recently proven to cause brain cancer, I might stop buying the shampoo that I've been buying for the last 10 years because I just found out something so radically important, so high risk, that it would cause me to break a belief. And we'll get into all of this. The positioning platform also creates a sense of momentum for your messaging. You've all heard that it takes multiple touch points for consumers to finally take an action. 3 touch points, 6 touch points, 8 touch points. I could Google how many touch points does it take, and you're going to get answers all over the place. And guess what? There's no one right answer. Because depending on a lot of factors, and we are actually going to spend time on every one of these, you may be able to get the buying action you want in 1 touch point. Maybe it takes 2, and maybe it takes 3. But if we stick with a positioning platform approach, we build momentum in our touch points, okay? And that momentum increases the likelihood that our target is going to respond the way we want them to respond to our marketing messages. So, as I said, once we get our positioning platform crafted properly, we don't change it. We certainly don't change it fundamentally, but we may change or adapt how we convey it. The same message conveyed slightly differently for the idiosyncrasies of different channels or for different segments of our audience. Perhaps we have defined our absolutely perfect positioning and depositioning message for our service. But maybe the language that we use to convey it to a 20-something-year-old is different than the language we might use to convey the same points to a 40 or 50-year-old target. Maybe the way we talk about this to a mid-level manager is different than the way we might say the same message said slightly differently to the CEO or the chief marketing officer of a client target that we're looking for. So we want consistency, we want momentum, but we need to have this flexibility in how we convey the message. Let's jump into the components that go into a properly crafted positioning platform. And there are 3 of them. The first is the for component. And the for component is pretty much self-explanatory. Who is the right target for our service, our product, our course, our brand, our agency? Who is that? Is it only women? Is it only moms who have kids? Is it only graphic designers? Is it only e-com business brands? Is it only PPC agencies that we're targeting? If we don't know who our brand, product, service, agency, consultancy, etc., is for, we cannot craft the right message to speak to them in the language that they are used to speaking, in the words they need to hear. The second component is the brand promise component. The brand promise component is really, really critical because this is the part of your positioning platform that says, and for you, this is what we're going to achieve for you. The third piece of a positioning platform is the reason to believe. Because I can tell you that this is exactly for you. My brand, my product, my widget, it's exactly for you. And maybe it is. And if it is, you're going to say, yeah, that's for me. And I can tell you that my brand promise is that if you buy my widget, you're going to achieve these results. But everybody believes that their baby is the most beautiful baby that has ever been born in the history of babies being born. And babies are cute, sure. But not every baby is the most beautiful of all babies. Maybe they are to you, to the parent, but let's call it like it is. Everybody says, my brand is better. What does better mean? Bigger, whiter, brighter, cleaner, newer, faster, quicker, picker-upper. Drives me crazy. Because everybody's trying to outdo the competitors. That's not what this is about. This is about eliminating competitors. And it's a mindset shift in the mind of your target. So while you're giving them a brand promise, you need to also give them the third piece, which is the reason to believe. Reasons to believe are where most brands get really messed up in thinking about creating these messaging platforms, positional platforms. Everybody who has a website knows that every consultant about conversion optimization talks about social proof. I'm just picking one example. I've got 20 testimonials on my website about how great my product is, how it changed their lives, and they lost all this weight and they could suddenly play the violin and speak 4 languages that they had never heard of before overnight because they used my product. Okay, social proof has its place. But do I believe it? This product was the best thing I've ever used, signed Susie S. Who is Susie S? Is Susie S actually a real person? Did Susie S actually buy and use the product? I love when I see websites that are brand new, introducing our new product, and all of a sudden there are 20 or 30 or 50 testimonials who say, "Oh, I love this thing. It's the greatest thing I've ever tried. It just came out." Believability is where positioning stands or fails. So in our positioning platforms, you need to give a reason to believe that is validatable, that is verifiable, without jumping through hoops. And more importantly, without your target having to jump through hoops. Because as we'll see in another session, doubt kills. Doubt kills marketing. Doubt kills sales. Doubt prevents business growth. We're going to learn how to use doubt to our advantage against our competitors. But we certainly don't want to open the door on a first touch message where people will say, "How could that possibly be true?" So let's go through each of these 3 components for a moment. The 4 component, first one, it actually does 2 things. It defines your specific target, your ideal customer or client, to a very high level of precision. The more precise, more successful you're going to be. So instead of saying, for business owners, well, what kind of business owners? Are they CEOs of Fortune 50 companies? Are they startups? Do they own a small business that they run out of their garage? There are different levels of business owner. So we need to get to a level of precision. I'm going to show you how we do that. So the 4 component defines a specific target to the highest level of specificity that we can possibly get it to. But it also, and it must, at the same time, define this target's most immediate, most urgent, most obvious, or most likely pain point, problem, need, desire. And I'm going to show you an example in a moment of how this is done at the master level. So here's the 4 component. The 4 component is always expressed from the perspective of the target. Yes, we're saying it, but what we want the target to hear is, "Oh, wait a second. That's me. They're talking to me." We want them to have this immediate connectivity reaction. that says, yeah, that's me. Why? Because when we go on to present our brand promise, we don't want to have them thinking, does this apply to me? Why does that? No, because we've already gotten over that hurdle in the for component. Once I say, yeah, that's me, that's my problem, that's what I want, that's what I need, that piece is done. And we are now one giant step closer to our target making the buying decision. The for component sets a favorable stage for our brand promise. It prepares our target to receive our brand promise message with a higher degree of likelihood to believe and accept. So let's talk about the brand promise component. And this is the part of our positioning platform where we very clearly and important, unambiguously state whatever it is that we're promising we're going to deliver in terms of a result. So statements like 10x your revenue. Of course, not that I've ever seen that anywhere. That's kind of ambiguous, right? How do you know what my revenue is? Is there even a likelihood that there is 10x to be had? Or within my budget, or within my specific market, or maybe I'm already saturated. So we need to be unambiguous in our brand promise. And as we're going to see in next week's session, I'm going to define the meaningful benefit. This is going to become the heart of your positioning platform. So our brand promise basically says this is exactly what we're going to do for you in such a way that it fills or fulfills your needs or desires or solves your problem. This is the whole thing. This is the ball game right here. This is what it is that I'm offering to you that I want you to say yes to. It's our solution to their problem. It's our fulfillment statement of whatever it is they need or desire. It could also be the outcome we're going to achieve. Let's jump for a moment over to the reason to believe. The reason to believe is where we provide a combination of two substantive pieces of information, if you will. Our reason to believe in us, that's the positioning side. Why should you believe that what I just promised you, A, has a chance of happening, and B, I'm the one who can make it happen? But it also includes a de-positioning, what I call a door closer on our competitors. Because while I am opening the door to my service, my product, my offering, my agency, my consultancy, my course, I also need to welcome that prospect closer to me while I am shutting the door behind them to all of their competitors. This reason to believe is the most important part of the positioning platform, because without it, the rest of it could easily just be bullshit. It's also the hardest part to craft properly. And what we need to do is we need to kind of shake the cobwebs out of our marketing thinking and reevaluate. You see these little widgets that pop up on websites, right? Proof kinds of things. Bobby X just bought widget from Chicago. Did he? I don't know. I mean, I've seen those proof things come up where somebody just bought or just signed up for this service and the date on it is 4 weeks ago. What does that tell me? Well, they're not selling a lot of them. So we have to be careful when we craft our reasons to believe, because using gimmicks isn't going to work. But we don't need to. And before I show you and deconstruct an actual positioning platform, I want to take you through why positioning platforms work, why they have this power. And it's because every statement, the way we write it out in our positioning platform, has two pieces to it. There's a visible piece, which we call the stated aspect. There's an invisible piece, which is what we call the implied aspect, or the read into factor. And every part of a positioning platform that's properly crafted contains both. The stated aspect is the actual words and images and concepts. It's what we're actually saying. It's the noises we hear. It's the pixels and words we're reading. For example, we might say, for people who have frequent headaches, that's a stated aspect. And somebody could say, yeah, that's the implied part. The implied aspect is what our target is going to instantaneously think, feel, react when they hear or read the stated part. For people who have frequent headaches, and the target is saying, yeah, that's me. I do have frequent headaches. Now, I'm prepared to listen to the next piece because I'm salivating. I have frequent headaches, and they're about to tell me something for people with frequent headaches. So the stated part is intentionally crafted in a very specific way. It uses very specific words to force a very particular implied reaction to be read into by the target, by the recipient. And it's so important because this implied aspect, if we get this right, it sets the foundation for our target to be ready, willing, excited, anticipatory about what it is we are about to tell them next, which is what? The brand promise. Because what happens is the moment somebody says, yeah, I do have frequent headaches, we are hardwired to complete pieces of thoughts that pop into our head. So, yeah, I do have frequent headaches. And immediately, subconsciously, I'm thinking, I wake up in the morning, I can't focus, I can't concentrate at work, I can't do X, Y, and Z, I can't. We keep going. That chain of thought keeps happening. It doesn't just stop with, yep, I got frequent headaches, because there's an implication part to having frequent headaches. If I had frequent headaches or you had frequent headaches and it didn't change anything at all in your life, you wouldn't care. But because frequent headaches do have a negative reaction, negative implication, you really want to know what you can do about it. And it relates back to a tangible benefit. We're going to see this in great detail in next week's session. Because when you think, yeah, I have frequent headaches, that's for me, you're also thinking, I wish I could have relief. And if I had relief, then I could do whatever it is that you need to do, that you're not doing as well as you could be doing or doing at all because you have this problem. So here's the classic example that I use. And this is in my white paper. If you haven't downloaded and read the latest updated version of my white paper called The Positioning Matrix, it's on the website at masterpositioning.com. Just go find the white paper PDF and download it. But this is the example that I use, and it's a perfect example. And let me tell you that this was not something that took an hour for the corporate and creative geniuses at Volvo Brand Marketing to figure out. This took a long time. So they started with the 4 component. What did we say the 4 component was? Who are we talking to? So Volvo's positioning started out with this targeting. Families with young children. Instead of saying for families, for frequent drivers, for sports enthusiasts, for rally racers. No, their targeting was for families with young children. Now, if you have young children in your family, the reaction, and this was focus tested, they spent millions and millions of dollars testing this, by the way. The implied reaction was, yeah, I have kids, right? For families with young children. I have young children. And I do take them in the car with me a lot. And wow, if I had an accident, I certainly want my kids to be safe and to survive. So the stated part of the 4 here is for families with young children, and the evoked implied message is, I want my kids to be safe in the car. Here's the brand promise. Volvo makes the safest SUV on the market. What's the implied reaction? If in fact that's true, that Volvo makes the safest SUV, the implication is my children are going to be safer in a Volvo than they would be where? In any other SUV. What's that? Volvo's competitors. So here in the brand promise part, they're already positioning their safety and depositioning any other SUV. Okay, so you're telling me you make the safest SUV on the market. Why should I believe you? Every manufacturer tells me their SUV is safe. Backup cameras, backup lights, bigger bumpers, faster, better braking. Here's Volvo's reason to believe. Because we use more side airbags and more steel struts in the side cage of our SUVs than any other manufacturer uses. And what did they do to prove this, they spent about $100 million on TV commercials. Remember the crash test dummies in the Volvo? And the Volvo smashes into a brick wall, and the airbags deploy, and the dummies get rattled around, but they're not destroyed because the cage was protected with these extra side airbags and all these steel struts. And for a period of about 6 years, every marketing campaign that came out from Volvo in every medium, television, radio, print, all highlighted one issue: safety. And so Volvo built the belief in the mind of the target, families with kids, that their cars were safer. And I think a lot of you who may have seen any of these Volvo campaigns over time, if somebody says to you, what about Volvos? One of your likely reactions is, oh yeah, they're safe. That's the result of positioning. Let's look at the implied part. Because in the stated part, Volvo uses more side airbags and more steel struts. That's pretty tangible. I can disprove that if it's BS. The implication is, in the target's mind, well, other SUVs that don't have that many side airbags, don't use this many steel struts, cannot provide the level of safety I need for my kids if, God forbid, I should get into an accident, like only Volvo can protect my family. I tore this apart into pieces, but let's take a look at what the Volvo positioning platform looks like as one cohesive statement. Volvo. For families with young children, Volvo makes the safest SUV on the market because we use more side airbags and steel struts than any other SUV. Period. This is literally a perfectly crafted positioning platform. Now, you will never hear this exact set of words in a Volvo ad or on a Volvo website or in a Volvo message, because the positioning platform is not used verbatim. So when the team at Volvo was sitting down to come up with their new TV campaign or their new ad strategy, their creatives, their agencies sat down and said, okay, we have to focus on our headlines and our images being of families in cars with kids in the back seat, and maybe stopping short at a red light or if a car cuts you off. And the kids are, well, maybe at risk, but an airbag deploys, or the car stops in time and mom says, wow, my kids are safe. Or the crash test dummies. Every single message, every marketing campaign, every marketing tactic paid off this one positioning for about 6 years. Now, as we craft our positioning platforms, they're not going to be this neat and pretty. It takes a little work. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 4 drafts to be able to boil it down so that it's as simplistic as this, but as powerful. So there's a little bit of homework that we need to do. To get our 4 component, we need a precise description of our target market. Our target market shouldn't be described as for dentists. Let's say we do service businesses, or we provide services to professional services like dentists. To say for dentists, it's probably not specific enough. Maybe we want to say, for dentists who specialize in dentistry for children, now we're getting narrow and precise. Maybe we can take it further. For dentists who specialize in dentistry for children in Miami, Florida, now all of a sudden we have a 4-component to the right level of specificity of identifying the target. But we also need a precise definition of their most urgent pain points or needs or desires. So what would a pediatric dentist practicing in Miami, Florida, what might be their problem? Not enough lead flow? Their appointment calendar isn't booked? How do they deal with the issues of the current COVID pandemic and safety concerns of patients coming to the office? So we need to understand the context, not only of who we're targeting, but what is the problem they're facing. Because whatever problem they're facing, whatever need or desire they have right now, that is going to elicit the strongest positive response from them. We also need to craft our brand promise to convey our position. What is it that we're going to do for these dentists who practice pediatric dentistry in Miami, Florida? What are we going to do for them? Are we going to generate more leads? Are we going to fill their calendar? Are we going to give them the marketing tools and language and emails and scripts, for example, to provide a higher degree of confidence for parents to bring their kids into the office, even during the COVID crisis? And then we need a reason to believe. We need to tell our target dentist in South Florida why they should believe that what we're promising to do for them is actually real. And not just I'm saying it, but because we have a series of 6 amazingly crafted email messages and phone scripts that talk about how, and I'm making this up, we sterilize the entire office between each visit. We space visits an hour apart. We only allow 1 patient in the office at a time, etc. We can give this dentist material that they can send out to their prior patient list, they can use for local marketing, that will give their targets a higher sense of confidence to feel comfortable about coming in and making an appointment. This is just one example. There's dozens that we could think of. But whatever we use for our reason to believe, or whatever we recommend to one of our clients to use as their reason to believe in their marketing to their customers or consumers, it has to be able to be not just believed on a surface level, but validatable. We call it evident, or clearly evident, or provable, without the target having to jump through a lot of hoops. So tying this together here, there is a very specific way, and I've spent the better part of, well, more than 30 years trying to productize, if you will, bad word, trying to create a method whereby any business, any service, any product, any consultant, any agency, any brand could be able to craft their own positioning platform as easily as possible. Exactly a flow. Do this, do that, do the next thing, and there it is. And I created this thing, this process that I call the positioning matrix. And it is actually the world's first mathematical model that enables anyone to define all of the elements and components you need for a great, winning, powerful, competitive advantage positioning platform, and to understand where you might need to place more emphasis. Because in some situations, you need to put more emphasis on the brand promise, because your brand promise is so powerful, it's irresistible, that my need for reasons to believe may be set at a lower threshold. In other cases, my brand promise may not be a life and death issue. I've got a lot of choices of laptops to choose from, so the reason to believe might actually make the difference in which one I choose. So we need to understand that the elements that go in are not all equal all the time. So I created a mathematical model. I've used it for more than 30 years with my clients, and I'm talking about multi-billion-dollar clients, and it works every time. So I'm going to present this all to you, and next week we're going to talk in amazing depth about what the positioning matrix is, how you use it. I'm going to teach you every piece of it next week's session, but I'm going to tease you a little bit. Let's go to a larger blow up. The positioning matrix is a grid. And on the left side of the grid, we see 4 in yellow boxes, what I call essential elements. These are things that we need to figure out and define before we sit down to write our positioning platform. We need to know these 4 things. We need to understand, what are we promising in our brand promise, right, that has a meaningful benefit to our target. And we're going to talk about that. And how can we most easily prove that or substantiate it, reason to believe? But we also need to understand why whatever it is that we're offering, our product, our service, is so differentiated from what all of our competitors are offering that we become the only viable option in the mind of the target, and our competitors vanish. And we need to understand, how do we phrase our depositioning of our competitors? So we have 4 essential elements that we need to, and we're going to write these out. But they don't have all equal weighting, because across the top, we see that there are 4 different marketing environments that we could be trading in, or our clients could be facing. There's an introductory environment. There's an offensive environment where we're trying to grow market share. Well, we got to take it away from somebody. There's a defensive environment where we're being attacked. Somebody's coming after us with a big, sexy offer. They're spending a lot of money on this, and we need to protect our client base. And there's the remedial environment where something went south really, really badly, and it could impact our ability to survive. It could impact our ability to continue in business, or it could be something that we just really need to fix real fast before it blows up into being a PR nightmare. And depending on which of the 4 marketing environments is the most urgent for us, and it changes over time as our business grows, the emphasis that we put on one or more of the 4 essential components, the 4 essential elements, is going to change. And I'm going to go through these percentages with you in excruciatingly wonderful detail. You will love it. And this is what we're going to do in next session of the master course. We're going to take apart and put back together Marty's positioning matrix approach. And so until next time, I'm going to say thank you very, very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining me today in the master course, session 2, the positioning platform. And I look forward to session 3 of the master course, which is going to be all about the positioning matrix, the world's first mathematical model to enable you to comprehensively, quickly, and powerfully create your own brand positioning platform. Thank you very much.